Hi, welcome to Scan 365. We're here in Pioneer Square at Occidental Park, and there's an Art Sparks going on. And Chris Azell, is that correct?
That's correct.
He's got this wonderful art piece behind us, functional art piece, and we're going to find out all about that. Chris, welcome to Scan 365.
Thank you.
Okay, Chris, can you tell us a little bit about this structure?
Well, it's made of plastic 2-liter bottles that were originally used for an installation in Nord Alley across the way this winter. And so when Art Sparks opened up ideas for grants to do installation or performance here for the summer, I thought it was a great idea to take those bottles and create something that was more three-dimensional for people to interact with. So I took the bottles, proposed this tea house. We do Japanese tea ceremony in, and add other reusable or recycled materials to create the whole structure.
So tell us about the recycled material, where it came from.
Well, all the bottles were collected by Clear Space, which is a waste removal company mostly in the north of Seattle. So that's how I accumulated all those. The roof is a used mylar sail from a sailboat, and then the platform is made of cardboard and recycled cedar.
So with the platform, I see it's woven. Did you weave that?
Yes, the strips came from a hardware store. They're furring strips for drywall framing, so it was already cut. So just about weaving them together and stapling them down.
Now tell me about the aluminum. How did you come about with the aluminum frame?
Well, since we were using the bottles and the bottles essentially hanging from the frame, the idea was to create a structure that the outer structure both to support the bottles on the roof, but also the idea was to sort of wrap this whole little building. So you almost sort of is almost like a basket in a way in terms of its aesthetics. That it's like a basket, which the structure of a basket has to be completed only if all the pieces are tied together. Well, the same thing here with this structure. So that was sort of a nod both to the expression of the structure and also the sort of the aesthetic of the design and the sort of being thoughtfulness of Japanese tea and culture.
So is the aluminum recycled something or other, or did you have to buy that specifically?
I bought that, but there's been no waste. So all the poles come at 20-foot lengths, so we cut them in half, and we use the 10 feet as our dimension. So we didn't waste any of the material. But yeah, it's not recycled. It could be. I mean, that could be the next step to doing everything 100%.
So the bottles are very intriguing. How you got them to look like they do? How did you get them to hold together the big pieces?
Well, as you can see, we have on top and below are the actual bottoms to the 2-liter bottles, and then the midsection is actually the middle section of the bottles. We cut that in half. It's almost like two roof shingles. So we put them side by side, punched holes, and then took fishing line, and we've woven fishing line throughout them to hold them together. So that's how it's all sort of like a woven tapestry in a way.
How many bottles did it take?
Roughly, there's about 900 bottles here. And as you can see, we actually all sanded the bottles too to get a translucency versus because originally they were all clear. So that we wanted to play with the pattern and play with the light quality. That was important to us, so that when you're inside, although you feel both that you're within an enclosed space, but you're very cognizant and aware of what's going around you. But there's a sense of privacy and not privacy, kind of a nice, happy tension there.
Do you know how many furring strips you have in there?
Haven't counted those.
You said it came from an exhibit that you had last year for Art Sparks?
It was not, wasn't actually Art Sparks, but it was the Nord Alley, which is between Main and Jackson, right behind the old Elliott Bay bookstore. The International Sustainability Institute was our sponsor, which they've been active in rejuvenating the alley spaces and making it a place for people to congregate. So we came together and talked about doing an installation for the wintertime. So it opened in December and closed in January. So we took all these bottles, about 400 bottles, and we suspended them over the alley, about 14 feet above the alley floor. And the balls were all whole, and they hung, and they spelled out the name Waste Not. And there was sort of a structure above that's suspended that held them all together. So from the end of the alley, if you look down the alley, it looked kind of like a floating cloud. And then when you walked underneath, you saw that spelled the names.
So tell us a little bit how you got into tea.
I took a seminar in Kyoto at the University of Art and Design on the garden arts, and which gave a wonderful introduction to Japanese art and design, and which gave me many more questions that I could answer. So after finishing the seminar in Kyoto, I asked one of the professors, how can I continue studying? And he mentioned, well, since you live in Seattle, there's a tea school, or a Senkei Foundation. Why don't you go visit them? And I did, and I got hooked in terms of the study, and I've been studying ever since. So it's about 4.5 years I've been studying tea.
How do you know how to create a structure like this?
Well, I'm an architect, so by training, this is something I do every day. And this is an experiment for me. We're taking the values of tea, of Chanonyu, and in that you have experience in a tea house, bring it to an urban square with this sort of structure of reusable materials, and see if the experience of doing the tea ceremony here would come across, and what would come across in terms of experiencing inside this little structure. So that's been my week-long experiment.
Are you an architect here in Pioneer Square?
My office is not here, but it's over in Vashon Island. But I practice, most of my work is in Seattle.
Well, thank you, Chris. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for coming.